Over the last few days, I've had some calls with some pretty large Salesforce customers. All were Sela customers. All of them long-standing customers. All of them have been public advocates for Salesforce, whether it's speaking at Dreamforce, whether it's testimonials, whether it's Benioff mentioning during an earnings call. So strategic customers. All of them decided and gave a commitment to Agentforce. And we were just having some conversations, checking in, how are things going? And without getting into some of the details about usage and what they're using and not using and where they're at, though I will just tell you in summary, still work to be done. But that's okay. They understood that it's going to take a little time, and so there's no fault there necessarily. They're not upset. But in having these conversations, it just reminded me, it kind of reinforced something that I've been trying to put out there for a while now, which is, yes, price matters. Yes, protections matter, swap rights, all of it, right? Of course it does. But in the era of AI, specifically with Salesforce and Agentforce, that's consumption-based, right? So originally it was conversations, and they rolled out and have an option under the flex credits, which is driven by number of actions, right? So for every 20 credits, it's one action. You buy in buckets, 100,000 credits. Customers that maybe were on conversations are converted to flex credits. But the bigger point is this. I cannot emphasize enough that if you have the ability, and hopefully you all do, before pen goes to paper, I implore you to fully understand, or as best as you can, definitions. What is an action? What's an action or a conversation in relation to your business? All of the examples, so not just a PowerPoint slide that's got a few examples on it. Go deep with Salesforce. Work with them. Work internally. What are your actions? What could they possibly be? Okay, in the ways in which you're using it, Service Cloud, Sales Cloud, whatever it may be. Pull it all together. Have that all memorialized. Push for it to be in your order form as an amendment. Have math examples. This is the business, this is the scenario. Here are the actions. It leads to this amount of drawdown on flex credits, which leads to this amount of drawdown on our pool, so forth and so on. Do it to the point where you feel like you've done it too much, meaning you can't do it enough. Understand it. Understand the metric. Understand in your contract what happens if you want to switch. So your conversation based, you want to move to actions. Your action based, you want to move back to conversation. Show what that looks like. Examples, cost impact. Have the cost per conversation fully flushed out and negotiated. Have the cost per action, right? Have it all figured out. If they are requiring you and or potentially over term, it makes sense for you to move from Sales Cloud Unlimited Edition to Sales Cloud Agentforce 1, which comes with its own flex credit. And by the way, data cloud credits. Have that pricing. Have the usage profiles understood. How does that work? I get flex credits under that subscription, but I have a pool of flex credits as well. How does that work? What happens if I go over? What about volume discounting? Transparency, now more than ever under consumption-based models, especially with Salesforce, especially if you're a Sela customer. It has to be figured out. It has to be understood with Salesforce in your contracts, in your order forms, but more importantly, or maybe equally importantly, understood within your company, right? Because everything that happens as this wheel spins could potentially have a cost implication. And if the thing's spinning, it's going to be very hard to correct. So again, transparency has always been a massively important item. But now more than ever, for Salesforce customers, you have to have this fully understood. Every component to it. And if you feel like you don't, if you have questions, you haven't done enough. You haven't done enough due diligence. So again, push your Salesforce rep. Push Salesforce to pull all this together for you. Push yourselves internally to get there. And quite possibly, you could put yourself in a good position. But unfortunately, especially those customers that are under a SELA, customers, even though there aren't, it's not always going to be the case. You may have gone as far as you think you should have, and likely you didn't go far enough. So those good discounts or whatever you may have gotten is going to come back, and it potentially and most likely is going to be problematic. So take the time, get it right, and then at the end of the day, make sure that everyone in your company understands. Because Salesforce is not going to give you credit, refunds, it's not going to happen.